The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked asphalt of Route 66 into a river of regret. Daniel's hands shook as he fumbled with the wrench under the hood of his '98 Ford pickup, the engine hissing steam like a dying breath. "Come on, you piece of shit," he muttered, but deep down, he knew it wasn't the truck betraying him. It was the life he'd been running from, the one that had chased him out of Chicago 2 weeks ago with nothing but a duffel bag and a heart full of ghosts. Headlights pierced the downpour like accusatory eyes, slowing to a crawl before pulling onto the shoulder with a gravelly crunch. The driver's door swung open, and out stepped a man who looked carved from the storm itself. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline sharp enough to cut glass and eyes the color of worn denim. He didn't say a word at first, just flipped up the collar of his leather jacket and strode over, toolbox in hand, as if he'd been summoned by Daniel's silent scream. "I'm Jackson," he said, voice low and steady over the roar of the rain, extending a calloused hand that Daniel took without thinking, the warmth of it jolting through him like the lightning overhead. In that grip, something shifted unseen, unspoken, but Daniel felt it settle in his chest like a promise he wasn't ready to keep. Daniel wiped the rain from his eyes, squinting at the stranger who had just materialized from the storm like some Midwestern myth. Jackson's presence was immediate, overwhelming, 6'2" of quiet confidence. His dark hair plastered to his forehead, a faint scar tracing the edge of his left eyebrow that made him look both dangerous and disarmingly real. He peered into the engine bay without asking permission, his flashlight cutting through the gloom like a scalpel. "Looks like your radiator's shot to hell," Jackson said, matter of fact, no pity in his tone. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms corded with muscle from years of wrenching on engines or wrestling steers. Daniel couldn't tell which, but it didn't matter. The man knew his way around a breakdown. "You got any coolant in the cab?" Daniel nodded numbly, fumbling for his keys. His mind raced, replaying the last 24 hours, the blowout fight with his ex back in the city, the eviction notice taped to his apartment door, the way his boss had looked at him that final afternoon, like he was a problem to be solved, not a person. Chicago had chewed him up and spit him out, a 28-year-old graphic designer with a portfolio full of unappreciated sketches and a secret he'd buried so deep it ached. And now this, stranded on the outskirts of some forgotten Oklahoma town, the kind where neon signs flickered eat and gas in perpetual half-life. He returned with a half-empty jug, handing it over. Their fingers brushed, and Daniel pulled back too quickly, heat creeping up his neck despite the chill. Jackson didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't let on. He poured the coolant with practiced ease, then straightened, wiping his hands on a rag from his toolbox. "That'll get you to the next exit, but you'll want a real fix. There's a shop in Tulsa, about 40 miles east. I can follow you. Make sure you don't seize up." "Why?" The word slipped out before Daniel could catch it, laced with suspicion honed from too many false saviors. Jackson leaned against the fender, rain dripping from his lashes. He studied Daniel for a beat, those blue eyes seeing too much. "Because it's what you do out here. Folks get left behind otherwise." He shrugged, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. "Besides, I was headed that way anyhow. Ranch business." Daniel hesitated, the offer hanging between them like smoke. He wasn't used to kindness without strings. His life had been a series of transactions, from the grinder hookups that left him emptier to the family dinners where his parents' evangelical smiles masked their unspoken disappointment. But Jackson's gaze held no agenda, just a steady anchor in the squall. "All right," Daniel said finally. "Thanks." They climbed into their respective vehicles, Jackson's black Jeep rumbling to life behind him. As Daniel eased onto the highway, the storm easing to a persistent drizzle, he glanced in the rearview. Jackson was there, a shadow in the mist, headlights steady. Felt like protection or pursuit. Daniel couldn't decide which scared him more. By the time they rolled into Tulsa, the sky had cleared to a bruised purple, streetlights buzzing to life along Peoria Avenue. Jackson led him to a no-frills garage called Big Al's Auto, its bays lit like interrogation rooms. Al himself, a burly vet with a prosthetic leg and a perpetual chew of Red Man tobacco, greeted them with a grunt and a once-over. "Radiator's toast," Al confirmed after a quick poke, spitting into a can. "Can swap it tomorrow morning. $100 parts and labor." Daniel winced, patting his empty pockets mentally. His savings were a joke, burned on gas and motels since fleeing the city. "Any chance I could crash nearby? Work something out?" I eyed him, then Jackson. "Got a cot in the back office. $10 a night, no questions. But you pull your weight, sweep up, fetch parts." "Deal," Daniel said, relief flooding him. Jackson lingered by the door, toolbox slung over his shoulder. "I'll swing by in the morning, check on you." It wasn't a question, and Daniel didn't argue. That night, Daniel lay on the lumpy cot, the garage's oil-scented air thick in his lungs. The fluorescent hum overhead kept sleep at bay, his mind replaying Jackson's arrival, the way he'd shown up unasked, unjudged. It stirred something dormant in Daniel, a flicker of want he'd long suppressed. In Chicago, he'd dated in shadows, quick coffees that turned into hurried goodbyes, apps that promised connection but delivered isolation. His last boyfriend, Ryan, had been all charm until the whispers started at work. The sidelong glances. "It's not you," Ryan had said during their final screaming match. "It's the optics." Optics. As if love were a branding exercise. Daniel rolled over, staring at the cracked wall. He was done with hiding. This road trip was his reset, head west to LA, chase freelance gigs, maybe even tell his sketchbooks the truths he'd never voiced. But Jackson. He complicated the map. Morning came with the clang of tools and AL's radio blasting classic rock, Springsteen wailing about highways and ghosts. Daniel was up early, brewing coffee from a pot that tasted like regret. Jackson arrived at 8 sharp, filling the doorway like he belonged there, 2 styrofoam cups in hand. "Figured you'd need this," he said, handing one over. Black, 2 sugars, just how Daniel took it, though he'd never said. Lucky guess. They talked while Al yanked the old radiator. Jackson ran a spread outside Tulsa. Cattle mostly, but he dabbled in custom bikes, welding frames in a shed that doubled as his man cave. "Grew up on it," he explained, leaning on a workbench scarred from years of abuse. "Dad was a hard-ass rancher, Mom the soft one who baked pies for the whole county. She passed when I was 15, cancer. Left me with a toolbox and a mean left hook." Daniel nodded, sipping his coffee. "I'm from the city. Chicago. Parents are church folk. Strict." He trailed off, the familiar knot tightening. Strict didn't cover the Sunday sermons on sin, the way his father's Bible thumped like a gavel. Jackson's eyes softened, but he didn't pry. Instead, he pulled a worn photo from his wallet, him at 18, grinning beside a chestnut mare, his arm around a lanky kid who looked like a younger, wilder version of himself. "That's my brother, Eli." He's off in the Marines now. Keeps me honest. The vulnerability in Jackson's voice cracked something in Daniel. They spent the afternoon together, Al shooing them out to run for parts. Tulsa unfolded around them. Dive bars with neon-lit jukeboxes, food trucks slinging brisket tacos, the Arkansas River glinting under a tentative sun. They grabbed lunch at a hole-in-the-wall called Mary's Diner, where the waitress called Jackson honey and refilled his sweet tea without asking. Over greasy burgers, conversation flowed easy. Movies, Jackson swore by Eastwood Westerns. Daniel defended indie flicks like Moonlight. Music, shared love for Johnny Cash's Gravelly Ache. Dreams, Jackson wanted to expand the ranch into ecotourism. Daniel sketched visions of graphic novels that captured queer heartlands. Laughter came unbidden, a foreign sound in Daniel's throat. As the sun dipped, they walked the riverfront, the air thick with the scent of wet earth and possibility. Jackson bumped Daniel's shoulder playfully. You know, you don't strike me as the stranding type. What's a city boy like you doing out here? Chasing sunsets. Daniel stopped, the river murmuring at their feet. Honesty burned on his tongue. Running, mostly. From a job that hated me, a guy who loved me in theory. Myself, maybe. He met Jackson's gaze, the words hanging heavy. I'm gay. Haven't said it out loud in God, months. Jackson didn't flinch. He stepped closer, the space between them electric. Good for you, then. Takes guts. His hand found Daniel's arm, a steadying touch. And for the record, takes a hell of a man to own it. That night, back at the garage, Daniel couldn't sleep. Jackson had left his number scribbled on a napkin. In case you need a tow, or just a beer. Daniel traced the digits, heart pounding. It was too soon, too raw, but the pull was undeniable. The next day, the truck was roadworthy. El slapped him on the back, pocketing the 100 with a wink. Tell your cowboy friend he owes me a six-pack. Daniel found Jackson at a nearby gas station, filling up his Jeep. Fixed up. Heading west tomorrow. Jackson capped the pump, turning slow. Mind some company for the stretch? I've got time before the calves drop. Daniel's breath caught. It was an invitation wrapped in nonchalance, but he saw the hope flickering in those blue eyes. Yeah, he said, voice rough. I'd like that. They drove into the plains together, the horizon swallowing the miles. Conversation turned to stories. Jackson's first heartbreak at a county fair. A girl who turned out to be a boy in disguise. Daniel's college fumblings in dorm rooms lit by phone screens. Laughter mingled with silences that weren't awkward, just full. By nightfall, they pulled off near a crossroads town called Weatherford, checking into a motel with peeling paint and a vacancy sign that buzzed like a heartbeat. 2 rooms, side by side. Over lukewarm pizza in Jackson's room, football on the TV. Volume low, they shared a six-pack, the beer loosening tongues and guards. You're easy to talk to, Daniel admitted, sprawled on the bedspread patterned with faded roses. Like you've been waiting for someone to show up. Jackson set his bottle down, leaning forward, elbows on knees. Maybe I have. Ranch life's solitary. Dates are few, cowboys who bolt when things get real. City types who think it's quaint till the mud hits the boots. His voice dropped. But you see it. The mess and the magic. Daniel's pulse thrummed. He shifted closer, the mattress dipping. Jackson. The kiss happened like the storm 2 nights prior. Sudden, fierce, inevitable. Jackson's lips were warm, tasting of hops and honesty. his hand cupping Daniel's jaw with a gentleness that belied his strength. Daniel melted into it, fingers threading Jackson's hair, the world narrowing to the press of bodies, the shared exhale of surrender. They broke apart breathless, foreheads touching. "This okay?" Jackson whispered, thumb tracing Daniel's cheekbone. "More than," Daniel replied, pulling him back in. The night unfolded in touches and whispers, bodies mapping uncharted territories. Jackson was patient, reverent, kisses trailing collarbones, hands exploring with a rancher's sure grip. Daniel, for the first time, felt seen, not as a secret but as a revelation. They moved together slow at first, then urgent, the motel walls thin but the moment thick with meaning. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of bleach and them, Jackson held him close, murmuring, "Stay a while. See where this road goes." Daniel woke to dawn light filtering through threadbare curtains, Jackson's arm heavy across his waist. For a heartbeat, it was perfect until his phone buzzed on the nightstand, Ryan's name flashing like a warning. The screen glowed insistent, pulling Daniel from the haze of contentment. Ryan's text, "Heard you're AWOL. Call me. We need to talk." Daniel's stomach twisted, the old guilt surging like bile. He silenced it, sliding the phone face down, but the damage was done, the bubble of last night pricked, reality seeping in. Jackson stirred, nuzzling Daniel's neck with a sleepy hum. "Morning already? Thought we'd stolen an extra hour." His voice was gravelly, affectionate, fingers tracing lazy circles on Daniel's hip. "Yeah," Daniel murmured, forcing a smile as he turned into the embrace. "Just the world knocking." He kissed Jackson softly, buying time, but the lie tasted sour. They showered together, steam fogging the mirror, hands wandering until water ran cold. Over diner coffee and eggs, Jackson devouring his like a man who'd earned the calories. They planned the day. A detour through the Wichita Mountains, maybe hike to a waterfall if the weather held. "No rush," Jackson said, stealing a fry from Daniel's plate. "Road's ours." But as they hit the highway, Daniel's phone buzzed again, a voicemail this time. He let it go to speaker by accident while fumbling at a stoplight, Ryan's voice filling the cab. "Danny, come on. I know I fucked up, but you can't just ghost. The lease is in both our names, and your shit's still here. Plus, I miss you. Call." Jackson's grip tightened on the wheel, jaw clenching. He didn't comment, but the silence stretched taut, the planes blurring past like unspoken accusations. Daniel stabbed the radio on Waylon Jennings crooning about Luckenbach, Texas, but it did nothing to ease the knot. They reached the mountains by noon, the landscape shifting from flat gold to rugged green, granite peaks jutting like defiant spines. Jackson parked at a trailhead, slinging a backpack with water and jerky. "Come on, city boy. Time to earn those legs." The hike started easy, banter flowing as they navigated switchbacks lined with cedars. Jackson pointed out tracks, coyote, deer, his enthusiasm infectious. Daniel shared sketches from his phone, rough lines of urban decay that made Jackson pause. "Really look. These are killer. You got a voice in here, raw as hell." At the summit overlook, they sat on a boulder, the valley sprawling below like a crumpled quilt. Wind whispered through the pines, carrying the faint roar of the falls. Jackson's arm draped casual around Daniel's shoulders, pulling him close. "About earlier," he said finally, voice low. "Your ex. He the reason you're running?" Daniel exhaled, staring at the horizon. Part of it. Ryan was safe. We met at a design firm happy hour. He was out, proud, paraded me like a trophy till the shine wore off. Then it was tone it down at parties. Don't post that pic. Optics. Like I said. He laughed bitter. Last straw was when he asked me to help cover for his hookup with a client. I walked. Jackson's thumb stroked his shoulder. Steady. Sounds like a coward. You deserve better than half measures. And you, Daniel turned, searching those blue depths. Ever been down that road? The hiding. Jackson's gaze drifted, shadows crossing his face. Once. High school best friend, Tommy. We experimented. Summer nights in the hayloft. Folks found out, thanks to a loose-lipped cousin. Dad beat the sin out of me with a belt. Mom prayed over me till I bled tears. Tommy. He hanged himself a year later. The words landed heavy, Jackson's voice cracking on the edges. Taught me to bury it deep. Ranch work helps. Keeps the hands busy, mind quiet. Dates are careful. Daniel's heart ached. Hand finding Jackson's, lacing fingers. I'm sorry. Don't, Jackson cut in, soft but firm. It's why I don't do halfway anymore. When I want something, I go all in. His eyes locked on Daniel's. Fierce. Like this. The kiss was slower this time. Deliberate. Tongues tracing promises. Bodies pressing close against the rock's warmth. Daniel's hands roamed Jackson's back, feeling the ridges of old scars beneath the shirt. Badges of survival. They didn't go further. Not here. But the heat built. A slow burn that promised more. Descending, buoyed by the moment, they stumbled on the falls, a cascade tumbling into a turquoise pool, mist rising like spirits. They stripped to boxers, diving in with whoops that echoed off the cliffs. The water was shock cold, exhilarating, washing away the morning's grime. Jackson surfaced sputtering, pulling Daniel under in playful retaliation, their laughter mingling with splashes. Floating later, side by side, Daniel felt a peace he'd chased for years. This, he said, gesturing vaguely, feels like a dream I didn't know I needed. Jackson treaded water, grinning wolfish. Stick around, darlin'. Dreams turn real out here. Back on the road. The mood lingered light until evening, when they checked into a B&B in Lawton, quaint Victorian with creaky floors and quilted beds. Dinner was homemade chili from the hosts, eaten on a porch swing under stars thick as scattered diamonds. Wine loosened tongues further. Jackson confessed his fear of the ranch swallowing him whole. Daniel admitted his sketches hid stories of boys like them, loving fierce in the margins. In bed, barriers crumbled. Jackson's touch was worship, lips on collarbones, hands mapping hips, entering Daniel with a tenderness that shattered him. Gasps turned to moans, bodies sinking in rhythm older than the plains. You're beautiful, Jackson breathed against his skin, and Daniel believed it, coming undone in waves that left him trembling, held. Sleep came deep, but dawn brought the call Daniel dreaded. Not Ryan, his mother, voice thin over crackling line. Daniel, pastor says you're wandering. Come home, son. We can fix this. Whatever it is. The whatever hung, loaded. Daniel hung up, chest tight. Jackson, sensing the shift, brewed coffee strong. Family? Yeah. They don't know. About me? Not really. Daniel stared into the mug, steam curling like doubts. Told them once, in college. Got the pamphlets, the prayers. Haven't tried since. Jackson sat beside him, hand on knee. You don't owe them your truth if it costs your soul. But if you want backup, I've got your flank. The offer warmed, but unease festered. They drove on, the panhandle unfolding, windmills spinning lazy, oil derricks nodding like weary sentinels. Stops blurred. A roadside stand for peach pie. A ghost town where Jackson posed dramatic for Daniel's camera, their ease masking the undercurrent. By Amarillo, storm clouds gathered again, mirroring Daniel's mood. Ryan's texts escalated, "You're being selfish. Come back." Then a photo, their old apartment, boxes labeled with Daniel's name. A note, "Your stuff." And my heart. Guilt gnawed. At a motel off I-40, over takeout ribs, Daniel cracked. He thinks I'm throwing us away. But it was never us, it was him. And the version of me he could stomach. Jackson listened. Then, you don't have to explain. But running from him. Don't run from this. He gestured between them, eyes pleading. That night, love turned desperate. Jackson pinning Daniel to the mattress, thrusts deep and claiming, whispers of mine against sweat-slick skin. Daniel arched, nails raking backs, chasing oblivion. But release brought no peace. In the afterglow, his phone lit with a new message from an unknown number. Saw your truck at AL's. Heard you're with some cowboy. Careful, Danny. Not everyone's as they seem. Daniel's blood chilled. Who? How? He showed Jackson, who frowned. Eli's old unit has buddies in Tulsa. Maybe loose talk, but doubt seeded. Jackson withdrawing slight. Phone calls to the ranch more frequent. Voice clipped. The next morning, over gas station burritos, tension simmered. You think I'm some rebound? Daniel asked. Sharp. Jackson sighed, rubbing his neck. No. But this us, it's fast. Real. Scary as hell. He cupped Daniel's face. I want it. All of it. But trust takes time. They pressed on, the betrayal's whisper echoing. In Tucumcari, New Mexico, they found a dive bar with a jukebox and no judgments. Beers led to pool. Jackson's form flawless. Daniel's shots wild but laughing. A local cowboy sidled up, flirting blatant with Jackson. Heard you fix more than engines, Jake. And jealousy flared hot in Daniel's gut. Later, in their room, it erupted. Who's he? Daniel demanded, pacing. Jackson's eyes flashed. Bar talk. Means nothing, but you smiled. Like it was old times. It's not. Jackson grabbed his arms, pulling close. Damn it. Daniel, I'm here. With you. The kiss was bruising. Makeup raw, clothes shed frantic. Bodies colliding in a tangle of need and proof. Jackson took him against the wall. Hard and unyielding. Daniel's cries muffled in the crook of a neck. Forgiveness came in shudders, but the crack lingered. Miles later, near Albuquerque, the storm broke, literal and figurative. Rain lashed as they argued over directions. Daniel accusing Jackson of pulling away. Jackson retorting with Ryan's ghost haunting them. You're still tied to him, Jackson yelled, swerving into a pullout. Daniel stormed out into the deluge, soaked and furious. And you're scared of what this could be. Lightning cracked, thunder rumbling like judgment. Jackson followed, jacket abandoned, shirt clinging. Yes, terrified. Because last time I loved like this, it ended in a noose. Tears mixed with rain on his face. But I'm trying, Daniel. For you. The admission broke them open. Daniel lunged, kissing fierce through the pore, hands fisting wet fabric. They stumbled back to the Jeep, steam fogging windows as clothes hit the floorboard. Sex was salvation. Jackson's mouth hot and insistent, Daniel riding the wave of release with sobs of, "I love you," unspoken but felt. Calm followed, wrapped in each other as rain drummed the roof. "We're good," Jackson murmured. "Better," Daniel whispered. But the unknown text nagged, a shadow on the sun. The high desert of New Mexico stretched endless, red rock mesas glowing under a sun that baked doubt into determination. Daniel and Jackson drove with windows down, Willie Nelson on the stereo, the wind whipping secrets into the ether. They'd forged a pact in that rain-soaked Jeep, no more ghosts, just the now. But the road had a way of unearthing them, mile by merciless mile. Albuquerque welcomed with adobe charm and green chili everything. Burritos from a cart that left lips tingling, laughter over shared bites on a park bench. Jackson's hand found Daniel's under the table, thumb stroking knuckles, a silent vow. "Ever think about staying put?" he asked, casual as the breeze. "Somewhere like this. Build something." Daniel's fork paused midair. The question hung, laced with implication. LA. Still beckoned neon promises of galleries, gigs, a fresh start, but Jackson's world tugged counter, all open sky and rooted earth. Maybe, he hedged, heart splitting. If it felt right. They camped that night in the Cibola National Forest, pitching a tent under ponderosis that whispered like confidants. Fire crackled as they roasted marshmallows. Stories flowing, Jackson's rodeo days, busted ribs and blue ribbons, Daniel's art school rebellion, murals defaced by campus cops for promoting deviance. Vulnerability bred intimacy. Jackson tracing Daniel's tattoos, a subtle rainbow arc on his ribcage, inked in a Chicago parlor. Daniel kissing the scar on Jackson's brow, earned from a bull named Lucifer. Under starlight, they made love slow, canvas walls their cathedral. Jackson entered him with reverence, eyes locked, breaths sinking like heartbeats. "You're my horizon," he murmured, and Daniel shattered, whispering back, "Don't let go." Morning brought coffee brewed black over flames, and a hitch, Daniel's phone, dead battery revived, flooded with voicemails. "Ryan, relentless. Danny, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Come home, we'll make it work. No more hiding." Then his mother again, voice trembling. "Your father's sick, son. Heart trouble. Needs his boy." Guilt clawed deep. Daniel stared at the screen, forest blurring. Jackson, packing the truck, noticed. "Talk to me. It's Mom. Dad's not well." Daniel's voice cracked. "They want me back." For him, Jackson zipped the cooler, face unreadable. "And you? What do you want?" The question echoed, unanswered. They drove in quiet, the forest giving way to high plains. By Santa Fe, Daniel broke, dialing home from a payphone outside a turquoise shop, old school, the receiver cold in his palm. His mother's relief flooded the line. "Oh, Daniel, thank God. He's stable, but weak. Flights are cheap from O'Hare. Come soon." No mention of the whatever, just familial pull, a tether he'd never fully severed. Hanging up, tears stung. Jackson waited in the Jeep, engine idling. "Go," he said simply, when Daniel climbed in. "Family's family. I'll be here when you're ready." The generosity stung worse than rejection. "You'd wait? Just like that?" Jackson's smile was sad, hand squeezing thigh. "Roads loop back. Cowboy. Trust that." Daniel booked a flight from Albuquerque, red-eye to Chicago, $189 on Southwest. At the airport, goodbye was airport brutal, hug fierce, kiss lingering. Jackson's text me from the gate, a lifeline. Daniel boarded hollow, the plane's hum mocking his resolve. Chicago hit like a slap, wind off the lake biting, skyline indifferent. Ryan picked him up, unasked, at baggage claim, hair tousled, eyes hopeful. "You look good," he said, pulling Daniel into an awkward embrace. "Missed you." The drive to the hospital was small-talk minefield. Work drama, mutual friends, no depth. At the bedside, Daniel's father lay pale, tubes snaking, his mother's hand frail in his. "Son," the old man rasped, eyes glassy. "Knew you'd come." Days blurred, hospital vigils, forced family dinners where grace was said over meatloaf. Bible verses slipped into conversations like barbs. Daniel slept on the couch. Ryan's apartment a limbo of unpacked boxes and unspoken X's. Nights, Ryan tried, tentative touches. "Let's try again." But Daniel recoiled, Jackson's absence a void. Texts bridged the gap. Jackson's photos of newborn calves, sunsets over the ranch, Daniel's hospital sketches, quick lines of worry. Holding down the fort, Jackson wrote. "You okay?" "Trying." Daniel replied. "Miss your voice." One night, after a vigil where his father gripped his hand, whispering, "Proud of you, boy," Daniel cracked open. In the chapel, empty save for flickering candles, he prayed not for forgiveness, but clarity. Emerging, he found Ryan waiting, coffee in hand. "Talk," Ryan said, leading to a bench outside. "I can't," Daniel started, words tumbling. "Us." It was safe, but small. "I need more." Ryan's face crumpled. "Because of him? That rancher? Danny? He's a phase. Real life's here. Us. Stable. Stable's a cage." Daniel shot back, rising. "I love you, as a friend. But not like that. Not anymore." The fight spilled, accusations of selfishness, pleas laced with manipulation. Ryan's final card. "Your folks know? About you?" They'd shatter. Daniel walked away, hail cab to the apartment for his things. Boxes loaded. He crashed at a friend's, the city closing in. Flight home, Chicago to Tulsa, then rental to the ranch felt like exhale. Jackson met him at the gate. Sign scrawled, "Welcome back, Horizon." The hug was home, kiss hungry in the parking garage. "How's your dad?" "Improving." "And me?" "Clearer." Daniel leaned in. "I'm staying. If you'll have me." Jackson's grin split wide. "Thought you'd never ask." Back at the ranch, sprawling acres of sage and split-rail fences, they fell into rhythm. Daniel sketched in the barn, Jackson teaching him to rope steers, their evenings firelit with stories and slow dances to Merle Haggard on vinyl. Love deepened. Mornings tangled in flannel sheets, afternoons riding double on Jackson's mare, nights where bodies spoke volumes. Jackson's dominance tempered by care, Daniel's submission a gift. But shadows loomed. A week in, Eli returned on leave, tall, tattooed, with Jackson's eyes but a sharper edge. Over beers on the porch, he grilled Daniel. Heard you bolted for family drama. Hope you're not another drifter. The jab landed. Not planning on it, Daniel replied. Chin up. Eli smirked. Good. Jake don't bounce back easy. Later, alone, Jackson confessed. Eli's protective. Lost too much, Mom. Tommy. Sees threats everywhere. Daniel nodded, but unease stirred. Then the text came, from Eli's number, watch your step. Ranch ain't for fragile city souls. Daniel showed Jackson, who cursed. He's wrong. But talk to him. Confrontation brewed at a family barbecue. Neighbors in boots. Ribs smoking. Country tunes thumping. Eli cornered Daniel by the fire pit. You hurt him. You're gone. Same goes, Daniel fired back. I love him. End of. Eli studied him, then clapped shoulder. Fair. Welcome, then. Truce held, but betrayal's specter lingered. Ryan's emails escalated, desperate, then venomous. You're throwing it all away for dirt and delusion. Daniel blocked him, but the poison seeped. Climax brewed in late summer heat. Jackson proposed expansion. Invite artists like Daniel for residencies. Blend ranch life with creativity. Excitement buzzed. Plans sketched over diner napkins. Then, a call. Investor from Dallas. Big money, but strings, corporate polish. No fringe elements. Meeting in a sterile office. Suits eyed Daniel's portfolio. Edgy, one said, but tone it down. Family values. Jackson bristled. This is about authenticity. They left empty-handed, but rift cracked. That night, argument exploded. Jackson accusing Daniel of naivety. Daniel retorting with compromises cost. You want this sanitized? For what? Approval. It's business, Jackson yelled. To build something lasting for us. Daniel stormed out, driving aimless into the dark. Tears blurring taillights. Hours later, at a bluff overlooking the spread, phone rang, voice grave, your boy's in a wreck. Jeep rolled on 66. Bad. Heart-stopping. Daniel raced back, hospital lights blurring. Jackson lay bandaged, ribs cracked, concussion throbbing, alive, but fragile. Idiot, Daniel choked, gripping hand. Scared me, Jackson winced smile. Needed you here. Sorry for the fight. In the quiet room, truths poured. Jackson's fear of failure, Daniel's of entrapment. We're enough, Daniel whispered. Raw and real, recovery bonded them deeper, Daniel nursing, sketching bedside portraits that captured Jackson's grit. Eli helped, grudging respect blooming. Ryan's final missive arrived. A letter, postmarked Chicago, I get it now. Be happy. Burn this. Daniel did, ashes to wind. Fall painted the plains gold, their love ripening. No grand gestures, just mornings of coffee kisses, evenings of stargazing twined. Jackson's proposal came simple, under that first storm's bluff. Ring forged from ranch scrap, knee in dirt. Marry me, Daniel. Build this life. Tears yes. Kiss ceiling. Winter clamped down on the ranch like a stern patriarch. Snow dusting the corrals in white silence. The wind howling hymns to endurance. Daniel and Jackson settled into the engagement's glow. Rings glinting on calloused fingers. Plans whispered over stew simmered on the wood stove. The house, a rambling two-story with sagging porches, became their canvas. Daniel's sketches pinned to walls, Jackson's tools organized in neat rows. Neighbors dropped by with pies and prying eyes, the news spreading like prairie fire. The cowboy and the artist, tying the knot. But roots stirred undercurrents. Daniel's father rallied enough for a visit. Plane ticket gifted by a forgiving mother, her voice tentative on calls. "We're trying, son. For you." Arrival day dawned brittle, frost etching windows. Jackson fussed over the roast, nerves betraying his bravado. "Think he'll like me?" Daniel kissed his temple. "He'll see what I do. A man worth everything." The airport reunion was stiff, hugs formal, small talk skirting edges. Over dinner, candlelit, Al and Eli roped in for buffer. The elder Hargrove thawed slight, chuckling at Jackson's bull tales. But bedtime brought the reckoning. Father and son on the porch, breath fogging in cold. "You chose this," Hargrove said, gesturing vague at the dark spread. "Over the city. Over us." Daniel's chest tightened. "Chose life, Dad. Real love, not shadows." He pulled up a sleeve, showing faded scars from teenage corrections. "You tried to fix me once. It's who I am." Silence stretched, broken by a sigh. "I was wrong. Scared. But seeing you happy makes an old fool rethink sermons." Tears gleamed unshed. "Proud, Daniel." Finally, embrace followed, raw and redemptive. Morning, Hargrove shook Jackson's hand firm. "Take care of him. He's all I got right." The visit lingered like grace, but betrayal's echo resounded in spring thaw. Eli, back from deployment, brought news. A letter from Tommy's family, forwarded years late. Accusations, blaming Jackson's lifestyle for the suicide. Guilt resurrected, Jackson withdrawing into long rides, whiskey nights alone. Daniel found him one dusk in the barn, staring at faded hayloft markings, initials carved hasty. J&T. "Talk," Daniel urged, settling beside. Jackson's voice broke. "They hate me. For loving him. For not saving him." "You were kids," Daniel said, hand on knee. "You couldn't. But you can honor it by living loud, loving fierce." Jackson turned, eyes tormented. "What if I drag you down? This place. The whispers folks talk. Daniel. About us. Then we talk louder." Daniel kissed him, slow and sure. Together, healing came incremental therapy via Zoom with a Tulsa counselor. Letters drafted but unsent to Tommy's kin. Apologies owned, not begged. Eli stepped up, sharing his own closet struggles in the core. Brotherhood mending. Summer bloomed riotous, wedding plans unfurling like wildflowers. Small affair, under the bluff, wildflowers in jars, Al officiating in beyond the lookout tie. Vows exchanged with wind as witness. Jackson's "You're my steady in the storm." Daniel's "You pulled me from the breakdown, and I'll never look back." Rings slid on, kiss sealing amid whoops from 50 souls, neighbors, kin, even Daniel's parents beaming tentative from folding chairs. Honeymoon was the road reversed. Route 66 east to Chicago, then loop south, reclaiming miles. Motels remembered, hikes revisited, love rediscovered in diner booths and desert dawns. In a Kansas field, under meteor shower, Jackson proposed again, vows renewed, bodies joined under stars, gasps echoing cosmic. Back home, life wove intricate. Daniel's graphic novel took shape, Highway Hearts, Tales of Queer Wanderers Finding Home, self-published, buzz building via online queer lit circles. Jackson's Eco Ranch launched modest. Artist retreats in the guest cabin. First guest a poet from Austin who sketched Jackson mid-rope, calling him rugged muse. Conflict crested unexpected. Ryan, resurfacing at a Tulsa art fair where Daniel hawked prints. Clean-shaven, sober-eyed, he approached booth shy. Saw your book. You. Brilliant. Daniel tensed. Jackson hovering protective nearby. Thanks. Water under the bridge. Ryan nodded, glancing at the ring. Heard. Happy for you. Pause heavy. I was the betrayal. Danny. Not you. Forgive. Absolution came easy. A nod. Yeah. Go find your horizon. Ryan left. Ghost banished. But deeper cut followed. Investor from Winter returned. Deal sweetened but soured. Demand for discretion in promo. No queer-forward branding. Jackson, tempted by figures that could save the spread from drought debts, wavered. Boardroom tension peaked. Suits pitching numbers. Jackson silent. Daniel, invited as partner, spoke unbidden. This isn't just land, it's legacy. Ours. Take it or leave, but don't clip our wings. Jackson stood, hand finding Daniel's under table. Pass. We've got heart, not spreadsheets. Walk out triumphant, but fallout hit. Bank calls, foreclosure whispers. Night strained, Jackson pacing, Daniel sketching frantic to fund. We'll lose it, Jackson muttered one storm-lashed eve. We'll rebuild, Daniel countered, pulling him to bed. Lovemaking was anchor, Jackson's hands grounding, Daniel's moans affirmation. Dawn brought pivot, crowdfunding launch, save the Heartland Haven, queer artists rallying. Shares sold, gigs booked. Funds flowed, ranch secured. Climax shattered idol in harvest heat. Eli, drunk on reunion bourbon, confessed. He'd sent the warning texts, protecting Jackson from heartbreak. You were just passing through, he slurred to Daniel. Like Tommy, betrayal sliced deep. Jackson, fury incarnate, banished him to the bunkhouse. Blood or not, trusts earned. Daniel mediated, heart fracturing for the brother-in-law who'd become kin. Confrontation under the bluff. Lightning forking, Eli on knees, sobs wrenching. Lost him 'cause I couldn't save. Can't lose you too. Jackson hauled him up. Embrace bruising. You won't. But lies end now. Daniel joined. Circle closing. Forgiveness hard won. Family reforged. Fall painted redemption. Eli sober. Helping expand retreats. Daniel's book deal from a New York queer press. Tour booked. Jackson proposed legacy. A trust for queer youth ranches. Tommy's name etched quiet. Winter circled back. Snow soft. Pregnant with possibility. Adoption papers filed for a foster kid from the city. Wide-eyed and wary. They stood porch-wrapped, watching flakes dance. You changed everything, Jackson murmured, chin on Daniel's shoulder. Daniel turned, kissing slow. We did. Together, the years unspooled like Route 66 asphalt, cracked but enduring, each mile marking growth in the rearview. The ranch, now Heartland Haven, thrived as beacon. Cabins dotted the acreage, filled with writers and welders, painters capturing sunsets while learning to brand. Daniel's novel spawned sequels, Readings in Brooklyn basements and Boise bookstores. His voice a bridge for boys still sketching in shadows. Jackson, silver threading his temples, mentored apprentices in both art and animal. His laugh deeper, lines around eyes mapping joys. Their son, Micah, adopted at 5, a Chicago stray with curls and curiosity. Bounded through it all, roping calves by 10, illustrating his own bedtime tales by 12. Family dinners echoed with banter. Eli, settled with a quiet partner from the retreats, trading barbs. L, retired but ever present, grumbling over pie. Daniel's parents, visits annual now, toasting with trembling hands to the boy who found his way. But roads curve treacherous, and conflict revisited in autumn blaze of 25. Micah, 14 and fierce, came home from school bruised, taunts from town kids, fag daddy's spawn. Jackson's rage simmered silent, Daniel's pen bled pages of fury. Town hall loomed, school board debating parental rights curriculum, whispers of book bans targeting Daniel's works. Preparation was war council, Eli drilling talking points, Jackson pacing like a caged Mustang. They come for our kid. They come for us, he growled. Daniel nodded, hand steadying. Then we stand. Loud. The meeting packed the gym, boots scuffing bleachers, air thick with coffee and contempt. Board president, a florid rancher named Harlan, old grudge from Jackson's rodeo days, called order. Testimonies trickled. Parents clutching Bibles, decrying indoctrination. Then Jackson rose, voice thunder steady. This ain't about books. It's about boys like mine. Learning love ain't sin. Micah reads to dream, not to damn. Applause rippled sparse, but eyes shifted. Daniel followed, portfolio in hand, sketches of Micah laughing, family portraits raw. These are our truths. Ban them. You ban hope. His words landed. A poet's arrow. Harlan squirmed, gavel hesitant. Climax crested when Harlan's son, a bully from Micah's tales, stood defiant. My pa says it's wrong, but pause. Then, but Micah shared his book. Made me think. Maybe not all wrong. Silence stunned. Then cheers erupted, tide turning. Board voted narrow. Curriculum stays. Bans tabled. Outside, under harvest moon, Micah hugged tight. You fought for me. Always, Jackson whispered, Daniel echoing. Betrayal's final twist came quiet. Winter's hush. Ryan, dying cancer. Swift reached out via letter. No asks. Just closure. You were right. Live true. Finally. Grateful for the push. Enclosed. A check modest. From his estate for the youth trust. Daniel read aloud by firelight. Tears shared. Redemption's road, Jackson said, kissing temple. Spring 26 bloomed renewal. Haven expanded. Micah's art show in Tulsa drawing crowds. Anniversary under bluff. Vows refreshed. Rings polished, Jackson pulled Daniel close. Still changing everything? Every damn day, Daniel replied. Kiss eternal. Years layered. Micah off to college. Art major with a boyfriend who roped better than he drew. Eli's wedding. Daniel best man. Parents passing peaceful. Graves visited with stories told. Ranch weathered droughts. Booms, Jackson's knees creaking. Daniel's hands ink-stained. Old age crept gentle. Rockers on porch. Micah's kids tumbling through grass. Calling Grandpa Jack, Grandpa Dan. Stories spun, the breakdown on 66. The storm-born love. Legends to wide eyes. One dusk, as sun dipped gold, Jackson took Daniel's hand, weathered but warm. Best detour I ever made. Daniel squeezed, heart full. Offered more than help. Gave me home. Under stars they'd claimed. They sat two men. One road. Legacy vast as the plains. No end. Just endless horizon. Humanistic close. In the heartland's embrace. Love proved not conquest but communion. Flawed. Fierce. Forever weaving strangers into soulmates. Breakdowns into breakthroughs. For Jackson and Daniel, the car that stalled sparked a life unchained, reminding that sometimes the hand extended in rain is the one that holds through every season.